How much institutional power does Black excellence afford any of us? It won't save us, which we know. It's brutal as hell. And besides the temporary amount of safety you might have because of class mobility and the way that classism works, it's still to the whim of the ruling class how you can exist in Black excellence. How excellent is Black excellence if it is whiteness that determines your excellence? Are Black people excellent? Of course. Everything about us is just popping. We're innovative, funny, talented, strong, vulnerable, loving people for the most part. Black excellence typically refers to the celebrating and recognizing individuals' achievements, success, and accomplishments within the Black community. It emphasizes the importance of acknowledging and uplifting positive contributions made by Black people in various fields such as education, business, science, art. I would add the entertainment industry because Black excellence does rely heavily on the entertainment industry to kind of like express that. I'll get into more of that in the video. The idea of Black excellence is not inherently brutal, like in its pure form, it's not inherently brutal. It is supposed to be a positive, empowering concept that challenges stereotypes and promotes a more inclusive and diverse narrative. But it's essential, it's really important to recognize that discussions around Black excellence can sometimes be contextualized within broader conversations about systemic racism, inequality, and social justice. The title of the video, Black Excellence TM is Brutal, is because it is. So many of us are burnt out, stressed, feel unloved, and uncared for, and many other things because of this Black excellence idea. We've seen the essays, the think pieces, the videos, the TikToks, the Twitter threads, all about this, addressing Black excellence not being the thing that will save us because Black excellence is so tied to capitalism. And I agree, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably agree too. The system of excellence, the system of Black excellence specifically, is so engulfed in white supremacist capitalism. It has also been used as a covert tool to destroy us. The way that Black excellence is set up is that your accomplishments are why you receive love. We cannot have a conversation about Black excellence if we do not talk about mediocrity. Mediocrity, being mediocre, being basic, being regular, being ordinary, all of that stuff is a privilege. It is a privilege to be able to exist ordinary and not be something held to your detriment. And that is something that I'm not offered. And many of the people watching it, if you're a marginalized person, you are not offered the privilege or grace to just exist mediocre. You must be excellent or you have no value. Which is what led me to the statement that Black excellence at its core is brutal. It's not just about it not saving us. It is a system that's, kind of, it's fucking us up. Your accomplishments shouldn't be why you receive love from your parents or show love to yourself, or your achievements shouldn't be why your community sees value in you. It is not an ideal way to exist. And I want to emphasize that I am not talking about you wanting to achieve things or challenging yourselves or to do better to a standard you set for yourself. I am primarily addressing the need to succeed and meet standards solely by outside systems that were made to oppress you. So even when you meet those standards of excellence, you have been through so much pressure, pain, and adversity that you're no longer yourself. You are now institutionalized. You are now an institutionalized being that still serves the ruling class and no longer the community you come from. I revisited my own thoughts about Black excellence when watching Beyonce, the Renaissance film. It reminded me of the discomfort that I feel when people are inspired by her work ethic. I notice every time that conversation pops back up about how hard she works, it makes me cringe. And it's been hard for me to articulate why and not sound like a lazy bitch, but I think that I've got to it now. I think I can articulate it now. And you know what? Another disclaimer, because I could already see y'all being frisky in the comments. I don't think working to accomplish things or wanting to be a person who contributes excellent things to the world is harmful at all. Like, I don't. But I do believe that wanting to do things you love, or even if you do regular everyday things that aren't driven by love or passion and they're just simple things you're doing for survival, those things should not distort you. Those things should not completely disconnect you from the core of who you are as a person. In specific context, people might describe the pursuit of excellence within a Black community as brutal due to the challenges and obstacles that individuals may face. Historically, systemic racism and discrimination have created barriers to equal opportunities, and overcoming these obstacles can require significant effort and resilience. Totally get that. I label it brutal to highlight the intensity to meet those standards, the determination that you have to meet those standards to succeed in this world full of systems that are created to destroy us, just makes that pathway to that just something really harsh and harmful. There are a few incidents that have ignited this current conversation that show the brutality Black women deal with in a pursuit of Black excellence. I will be going more into that in this video, but first I would like to thank today's video sponsor, Vixen's Patreon members. Become a patron for as low as $2 a month to help sustain this platform and get exclusive content. Or if you don't want another subscription, because I know we already got a lot of those, you can send me a donation via Cash App or Venmo. And a thank you in advance to everyone who will comment and give this video a thumbs up. That is another way to contribute to the Mixed Vixen community. You're a real one, and I fucks with you. I fucks with all of y'all. A few things in the entertainment industry require excellence, which makes me uncomfortable. I'm pointing out the entertainment industry in general because many of us have a very unhealthy relationship with celebrities and attach excellence to it no matter what. There are so many Black people in the entertainment industry who have been allowed to exist freely to harm because of the excellence we have attached to them. The road to Black excellence doesn't shield you from harm or guarantee care. Why set such a harmful goal for us? Specifically with the Beyonce film, there are a few incidents that just made me feel like bad for her. Spoiler if you didn't see the movie. There was a time mentioned in the film where she was saying she was practicing as a kid. And that's the thing too. She was just always working hard as a kid to get to this goal of the Beyonce that we know now, right? So then she was practicing as a kid. She was supposed to be trying to reach a certain note. And she did it so much that it like cracked her voice. I don't really know a lot about singing, but it like cracked her voice. And there was a few things for me that bothered me. It was like, why would anyone push a child to that extent? Like, it's a child. Why was it okay to push a child to that extent? Because of that, she talked about going to, like, I think Great Adventures or some amusement park and being on roller coasters and could not scream because she had to preserve her voice. A child having to suppress their screams, excitements, or whatever at an amusement park because their voice was cracked. Because this idea of excellence and working hard and the grit and grime and pushing her to work past her limit was more important than just her being a kid and doing the things kids want to do. Like, why wasn't any care given? Why push her to that extent where a child voice cracked? Then also when she talks about how the way she's bust up her body from being on tour, those kinds of like narratives of that show how dedicated she is to the art, that she would bust up her body and she injured her knee probably 10 years ago, but now because of that injury she is still feeling the brunt of that because she never got to fully heal. That's wild to me. And then also the way in which she talks about how, and I think this is a journey that most people have, so maybe I'm exaggerating because I'm a Beyonce fan, but how she finally at 41 or 42, that she's like free to be herself, and she couldn't be herself for so long, or she had to be perfect. Her pursuit of perfectionism made her not be who she is, or maybe not feel free enough to be who she is, or not perform and do the things she wants to in that way because she had to be perfect. And then it also made me think of how even when you are Black excellent, right? So Beyonce's prime example of Black excellence in entertainment. Even with that, there is still pushback because you are a Black woman. This is Beyonce. And there was a clip in that movie where she asked for a certain lens, and the white photographer or whatever was like, "Oh, that doesn't exist," and she had to like catch him in a lie in a very Virgo way because that's what we like to do. Oh, for real? Well, actually, Mr. Cameraman, I googled it, and that lens does exist. Even with all of that Black excellence, cracking her throat, busting her knee, all of that stuff, she still, because she is not a part of the ruling class or the class that sets the standard to which we all live by, she still has to deal with that type of bullshit because Black excellence, although it could afford you privilege, doesn't completely shield you from the harm of white supremacy. Another thing that I think of is The Color Purple. The whole press run that's going on for The Color Purple musical has been interesting. According to Taraji P, Henson, one of the cast members of The Color Purple, she says that they were not given food on set or trailers during rehearsals. Other actors on that movie claim that they had to fight to get cash transportation to the set, as the actors were originally given rental cars and expected to drive themselves, which I don't know. Well, I've never shot a movie, but to my understanding, movie shoots are really, really long, and you tired as fuck. You should not be driving yourself to and from work. Someone should drive you. Taraji also claimed that she had to fight for fair pay in the early stages of The Color Purple production. And on top of trying to secure the aforementioned anonymity for her co-stars and her complaints, Henson pointed out the injustices that often populate Black films in Hollywood, which to her seemed highly apparent in this movie.
And I heard on the street, Taraji, you had the audacity to say you're thinking about stopping acting. We said, stop talking. Are you thinking about it?
I'm just tired of working so hard, being gracious at what I do, getting paid a fraction of the cost. I'm tired of hearing my sisters say the same thing over and over. You get tired. I hear people go, "You work a lot." Well, have to. The math ain't mathing.
It's just wild that at this stage, and there are many Black actors who have talked about pay inequity. I do want to note that Monique has said this many a times because she's fat, Black, dark-skinned, and a pick-me. No one wants to hear her. But that doesn't mean her claims are not valid. But that's another conversation for another day. These are people in entertainment, Taraji, other actors and on this movie who we would consider a part of the Black excellence realm. And they are not being paid, and they are not treated excellent. I'm sure that they went through a lot to get to the spaces they're at, and still in that instance can't just relax and be. Imagine being on set having to freaking advocate for yourself in that way. Like, it just never stops for us. That road to excellence is always something that we always have to push to reach. And that is tiring. Because of all of this stuff with The Color Purple, Oprah did receive backlash for this. Many accused her of not being supportive of Black actors, of the Black actors that were hired. And she did release this statement.
People are saying that I was not supporting Taraji. Taraji will tell you herself that I've been the greatest champion of this film, championing not only the behind the scenes production, but also everything that everybody needed. So whenever I heard that there was something that people needed, I'm not in charge of the budget because that's Warner Brothers. You know, that's the way the studio system works. And we as producers, everybody gets their salary. That's negotiated by your team. And so whenever I heard there was an issue or there was a problem with the cars or there was a problem with the food, I would step in and do whatever I could to make it right. And I believe that she would even vouch for that and say that it's true.
I have very mixed feelings about Oprah. But what's interesting here is how tied she is to the system that she won't shake get up. The false idea of Black excellence is used to make us fall in line. And I think Oprah is an example of a person who falls in line because this is what Black excellence calls for. Because this is not the first time that this conversation has been brought up where Oprah just goes along with what, well, this is how the business is. This is how it's done. This is, whatever. And because Oprah does not want to lose her power, she continues to be in alignment with the system and not try to change it, not try to shake it up or anything like that. And that is what I mean when I say institutionalized by these systems, where you get to a point that your career has got you to a level of privilege that you do not want to lose. So you start to say, well, this is how it is and this is how it go. And that's what the studios are supposed to do. And this is what they're supposed to do. And when something happened, I stepped up. Yes, you stepped up and got them their things, but it is 2023 and you have been in this business for how long, Oprah? You should be insulted that these people didn't have these things. And it seems as though you fought for them to get these things in a reactive way and didn't make sure these systems of safety were set in place for all of these actors proactively, which would be a lot more long lasting and be a lot more effective. People who live in Black excellence are still very tied to the structures of the institutions they are a part of and really disrupt them because they'll lose their spot in the institution. All these Black billionaires do that. I have a very similar critique for the Academy as I do for the entertainment industry. We hold academic institutions and the Black people who are a part of them in high esteem. But those institutions are incredibly harmful to us when we participate in them. Not the community you come from or the community Black excellence says you are doing great things for. Like the entertainment industry, you can gain access into these institutions. Still, the things you are required to sacrifice to be in these institutions are not worth it if your goal is actual liberation. We will not get liberation through the academy either, through the academics. That's not going to get us liberation either.
After weeks of intense scrutiny, Harvard University President Claudine Gaye resigned today. William Brangham has the latest.
Gaye's resignation came after she was scrutinized over two different issues. She was heavily criticized for her testimony during a congressional hearing about rising anti-Semitism on college campuses and Harvard University's response to it. Separately, critics allege she plagiarized some of her academic writings and revealed examples where she borrowed some exact language from other scholars. Gaye denied plagiarizing anyone, but said she would add more citations to some of her previous works. She was the first Black leader of Harvard and now has had the shortest tenure of any Harvard president.
So I'm not even going to front. I felt nothing when Harvard President Claudine Gaye was forced, allegedly, but she resigned due to those silly plagiarism accusations after only gaining her position as the president of Harvard 6 months ago. Now, I do have issues with empathy, and that's between me and my therapist, so it could be some of that. But I also don't have lots of empathy for folks who play within systems I don't respect either. And the academy is one of those systems. You can only be a part of these systems if you abide by the policies and bylines they set. And that's very similar to the entertainment industry. Many do not challenge these rules out of fear of being discarded when that doesn't even save them from being discarded. And this is an example of that here. These institutions will brutalize you and then throw you away when you don't please them anymore. Christopher Rufo, a conservative activist who helped orchestrate the efforts against Gaye, celebrated her departure as a win in his campaign against elite institutions of higher education. He saw her, didn't like her there, and did what he had to do to get her out. When she resigned, when she received her letter of resignation, he wrote "scalped" in capital letters, as if Gaye was a trophy of violence, which invoked a gruesome practice taken by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans, who also used by some tribes against their enemies. Maybe I empathize a little bit because that's extreme. Like, damn, that's whew. He also tweeted, "Tomorrow we get back to the fight." And he described a playbook against institutions deemed too liberal by conservatives. His latest target is promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in educations and businesses. I realized I skipped over and didn't say exactly what he did. So she's the the president of Harvard. She made some statements in alignment with Palestine, which he did not like. This man is a large donor for Harvard. I don't know, used AI or something to look to see if she plagiarized some stuff. I don't consider what she did plagiarism, but I'm also not, in the academy, so I don't know the stringency of that because I've never did anything to get a PhD. I don't even have my master's. I dropped out of that. Enough about me and my business. So he's the one who brought it to attention that because he donates so much money to the institution, Harvard, it kind of had to play out this way, which is wild because his wife had a plagiarism scandal. I think she don't quote me, but I think she was expelled from MIT over plagiarism stuff. So maybe that's how he knew to look for plagiarism because, he sleeps right with a plagiarist anyway. So I don't know. Let me get back to his hateful feeling. His latest target is getting rid of systems promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in education and business. This is a quote from him. We must not stop until we have abolished DEI ideology from every institution in America. In another post, he announced a new plagiarism hunting fund, vowing to expose the rot in the Ivy League and restore truth. These people are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. They will do anything to get us out of their institutions and spaces. How much institutional power does Black excellence afford any of us? It won't save us, which we know. It's brutal as hell. And besides the temporary amount of safety you might have because of class mobility and the way that classism works, is still to the whim of the ruling class how you can exist in Black excellence. How excellent is Black excellence if it is whiteness that determines your excellence?
Herbert Kitchen remembers seeing Dr. Bonnie Candia-Bailey at Lincoln University's homecoming.
She was just the epitome of hospitality and generosity.
I spoke with 3 alumni today, Kitchen, Nell Cheatham, and Earl Wheatfall Sr., about Bailey's death and the fallout involving President John Mosley. Kitchen and Cheatham say they spoke with Bailey on January 6th, 2 days before she died by suicide. Bailey shared with them many concerns over Mosley's performance, calling him controlling and unwilling to take input. Bailey said she even asked for time off through the Family Medical Leave Act due to stress and anxiety, but didn't get it. She even reached out to the board in November about the same issues, but was told the board wouldn't intervene.
I laid this situation at the feet of the curators. They should have been aware of what was going on, and as long as it went on.
The bullying, the harassment that she went through was just too much.
Lincoln University Board President Victor Pasley says a third party will now come in and review the situation. He says the board wants to make sure worker mental health is a top priority and that Mosley would be taking a paid leave of absence while it goes on. But the group says they fear the outside review is just to cover up the problems.
I see them setting this up to gaslight everybody and that they're going to eventually find a way to reestablish him in that position.
It's going to break loose, Luke, if he's not removed from that campus.
I do deeply empathize with the story of Antoinette Bonnie Candia-Bailey, the alum and vice president of student affairs at Lincoln University of Mousori, a historically Black college. I know what it's like to have a horrible white person be a part of your leadership team. I've experienced that. And even if I didn't find a point where I could relate to this, I am still deeply saddened that this was the option she chose to free herself from this suffering. Calls for resignation of Lincoln University of Missouri's president, John Mosley, are growing following her unaliving. On January 8th, Dr. Bailey began working at Lincoln University. In May 2023, she worked there for about 7 months. She received a termination letter on January 3rd. In the letter that she wrote January 8th, addressed to Mosley and obtained by ABC News, Candia-Bailey said she experienced months of harassment, bullying, and differential treatment from her white colleagues while working under Mosley and his administrative leadership. In her letter to Mosley, she recalls an apparent meeting between the two. This is a quote, "I couldn't even finish meeting because you didn't hear me. I left in tears. You intentionally harassed and bullied me and got satisfaction from sitting back to determine how you would ensure I failed as an employee and proud alumna. It is sad and unfortunate that for Candia-Bailey to live her dreams in the academy, she had to endure so much abuse that she unalived herself eventually. This is also why I critique all higher ed academic institutions. But she was at an HBCU. I didn't know that HBCUs had right presidents, but she was at an HBCU. And we keep saying, go to an HBCU. If you don't want to be harmed while you get education, go to an HBCU. Don't go to a PWI. If HBCUs are where we're supposed to go to be safe, yet she was not safe at all, and according to her, went through 7 months of emotional abuse and workplace harassment, where the fuck are we supposed to go? Black people are all innately excellent. I don't think it's something we have to strive for. I think it's unfair that the privileged are allowed to be ordinary, and it is us that has to strive and prove our excellence. That cycle has to end, and we will never meet their standard because they will change the rules every time. Is there a way to achieve Black excellence that does not destroy us? I don't think so. Considering the current system we live in and how much Black excellence is tied to classism and elitism, yeah, I just can't see it. But I would love to know your thoughts on Black excellence. Is there something I didn't touch, or could I have gone in on another point? Are there things that I am not seeing? That can be the case as well. Let me know in the comments. I'm really, really curious to know your thoughts on the brutality that is Black excellence, because I like to keep this conversation going, especially because I don't have a resolve. My resolve is to remove yourself from the system, but you have to also create a pathway for that, right? I don't have that answer right now as I record this. So I would like to keep this conversation going. Please put your thoughts in the comments because it's important, and it is important for our survival, for our existence. It is important for our liberation. Thank you so much for watching this video, and to all my patrons, because you make this possible. Links to join my Patreon or to leave me a tip via Cash App or Venmo are in my description box. Please leave a purple heart emoji in the comments. If you've made it to the end of the video, I just like to see who's made it to the end. And I hope you know that you're enough. You're a bad bitch. And I will see you in the next video. Peace out.